Howdy guys, Jimmy Song here for Off Chain. I haven't done one of these shows in a while, and I really wanted to make sure that like there was no morning brief today, and there was a bunch of other things going on. So I wanted to make sure that I got to connect with people. That's not something that I get to do very often. And I haven't done a chat or a show in at least on my channel for at least a little bit. So I'm hoping to get a chance to do that, and that's what this one is all about. Also wanted to update you guys on the book. I don't know if you guys saw, but I am in the middle of working on it. I've gone through a first draft, which was more or less me just trying to get to the finish line so I can, go in and edit it. Almost everyone that I've talked to that's written a book has told me, like the first draft is the hardest, but then, once you start editing and stuff, it gets to be a lot more interesting and stuff. So I will show you guys at least a little bit of a preview of what's going on that book. I also wanted to talk about my article, Crypto-Keynesian Lunacy, that I published earlier this week. That's gotten some pretty good traction. And, I wanted to talk about ICOs and, how they're very Keynesian in nature. And, talk about, what a lot of people seem to believe. So anyway, those are all things that I want to talk about today. So without further ado, let's see if I can, let's see, how do I do this? I can move that over here so I can watch the chat, and then I can share a screen. Let's see, let's do the entire screen, screen 2. All right, and let's make sure that I am. All right, so here's the book. This is, I don't know if I can zoom in or something. There we go. This is, very beginnings of the book, and this is what it looks like on O'Reilly. I love their platform, by the way. They let you basically take, basically make writing a book kind of like writing code. And, it uses something called the ASCII doc format, and, lets you like lay it out in this interesting way. And you can see like right here with code, point class, and I can put these little 8 balls, I think they call them, and like explain the code like below, so you can like follow it and stuff. There's little parts of it that are very much Python. I aim for this book to be very much a book for programmers. So you'll be learning some theory, and then you'll be actually implementing it. And I'm gonna make sure that you're getting a lot of it. And I gotta have like a preface chapter, or at least like a chapter 0 equivalent that tells you how to set everything up so that you can get the most out of this book, and not just the theory, because I think theory by itself isn't worth very much. It's actually getting to practice and implementation and the art of engineering that I feel is very, very important. Here's some elliptic curve stuff. I get into really granular detail on this stuff, and explain what an elliptic curve is and what a finite field is, and so on. So the idea here is that you can learn finite fields from scratch. You don't have to know what finite fields are. You do need a little bit of programming experience, specifically Python, so you can follow along. But as far as the book is concerned, it doesn't assume that you know anything about Bitcoin or the protocol or signing and verification or any of that, public key cryptography. It doesn't assume anything. And part of, I think, what I'm trying to do with this book is to make sure that you are getting everything that you need and know it at a very fundamental level. And that's not something that I've seen too much of. And my seminars are exactly the same way. It doesn't assume that you know very much, and you know, other than coding. And the idea is to build it up very slowly so that you can digest it a little bit at a time. There won't be a C++ version, and yeah, it's going to be in Python. I wrote it in Python largely because it's a great teaching language. There's it has native big integers. With almost every other language, you have to either implement your own, or you have to use some package that's like very cumbersome and requires like it isn't very natural. You can't use like plus, minus, exponents and stuff like that, which can be very, very annoying. Anyway, let's talk about, well, so yeah, this book is coming along. I've gone through the first draft. I've edited chapters 1 and 2 again. So I've really expanded it, and you can see what it looks like here. A lot of different diagrams. I mean, these aren't the final diagrams in the book. O'Reilly's already told me that what they're going to do is redo all of these so that they look more like an O'Reilly kind of book. Yeah, and like actually coding it and stuff. The idea here is to get something that my editors can make look better, I guess. Anyway, that's the update on the book. If I do finish, getting through a second draft, then we can put it to tech review. And tech review takes like a month, and then I get like 2 weeks to go and edit it again based on the tech review. And then after that, they basically take it for 2 months and get it all printed and everything. So my projection is something like this book may come out like January of next year. If I really hurry, maybe I can get it out like November or December, something like that. But I mean, I don't know. Like the point is, this is something that I've been working on for like 6 months. It's a very hard to birth kind of book. I put many hours into it, and Andreas has already told me you're not going to make much money, but I'm not doing it for the money, right? I'm doing it so that there will be more developers, and to learn more myself exactly how to write a book, and hopefully get even more stuff out there. Anyway, that's just a short thing. I wrote this article, Crypto-Keynesian Lunacy, and this was in response in large part to Kyle Samani's tweet storm. And I didn't think much of what he said made any sense. And he said some things that really reflected on what a lot of crypto Keynesians kind of do, which are the main fallacies, right? Aggregate numbers tell an accurate story. Centrally designed systems work better than organic bottom-up reality-tested systems, and everyone will do things exactly as expected. And this is really sort of a faith in governance, more or less. And this is a hot topic in Bitcoin right now, governance. And it's the tension between the crypto Keynesians and crypto Austrians. Like the more libertarian types think that governance is like, it's not really adding that much. It's very hard to do well with monetary policy. Whereas other people tend to think that you can govern things well, and that it is something that you can control and make people do, and so on. So, I mean, this is my take on it. Take it with a grain of salt. It's my views. I think a lot of my economic views are sort of coming out of it, and that's part of part of this whole thing is that I wanted to make sure that it was clear where I was coming from, because I do have a very libertarian background, and a lot of these guys, Bitcoin Cash people, Ethereum people, people that do like Keynesian economics, I think are kind of crazy. Like they don't really understand human nature or how the economy works. So that's what this article is about. I do want to talk about a couple of other things. This is an article that I found a little. I think it was published like yesterday, and this is the sort of thing that I would talk on the morning brief about. But since we didn't have a morning brief this morning, I wanted to touch on it. But this is a very interesting article. And the title is a little clickbaity, the 4 most expensive words in the English language. But this is talking about Filecoin, MadeSafe, SIA, and all of these other things, and talking about decentralized storage networks. And this guy seems to have a lot of experience in sort of like cloud storage kind of stuff. Goes all the way back to like NFS systems, which are really old, and they've been there a very long time. And it goes on to talk about how much things cost, and where it would make sense to actually store something on the Filecoin network. And the crazy thing is, the guy's done the math, right? Like, here's how much it costs to store something on AWS or S3 on Amazon, basically, and how much would it cost, or how much can Filecoin really charge, given this very obvious centralized competition? Filecoin's aiming to be some sort of a decentralized, like peer-to-peer sharing of hard drive space or something like that. And you look at how much S3 costs, which is 27 cents per gigabyte per year. And the most damning part is that in order for Filecoin to be able to beat that, or to return the capital, or to have their coins worth as much as they've been valued at, they need to be storing on the order of 107 petabytes, which is a lot. And they need to make sure that it's done at less than S3. Otherwise, you would just go to S3. S3 is very reliable. You know where to get customer service and so on. With Filecoin, there's nobody you can really call. I mean, I guess you can go call the Filecoin offices, but they're just going to be like, well, sorry, it's a decentralized system. You're supposed to go complain to somebody else. And it's a lot. I mean, that's asking quite a lot. I mean, 107 petabytes. That's an insane amount. Like, that's 1,000 times more than a terabyte, obviously. So, I mean, you need to do on the order of hundreds and thousands of large hard drive space that's being put out there more or less for very, very cheap. You're going to earn like 25 cents per gigabyte per year. And if you're doing that for like a whole terabyte, that ends up being what, like 4 gigabytes is $1. So 256 bucks a year for like a terabyte or something like that. I mean, maybe that's worth it. But you have to keep it online the whole time. There's like bandwidth considerations. And I mean, it just, it seems like it's, if you are able to do this efficiently, then you're probably going to end up, running your own data center and making a centralized system. A very insightful tweet that I read the other day was something like, if you find a decentralized app that has a lot of traction, then that is ripe for disruption by a centralized app. And this is absolutely true, because a centralized app is going to get way better scale, way better cost reduction, way better price, basically. And this is kind of a commodity at this point, having storage online. So I don't really understand where they're going to. I don't know. I know Filecoin has a lot of hype behind it, and they've raised over $200 million, and they've done a lot of stuff, but the economics still might not work out. And you might make some cool tech, but the markets are very cruel in that way. You can't just expect to succeed just because you make cool tech. Segway and Google Glass are two obvious examples of stuff that like a lot of people expected a lot from, but doesn't necessarily happen. All right, and this other story, NVIDIA appears to have a GPU inventory problem. This is, I think this is one of those markers of the bubble starting to pop, because they apparently have way too much in GPUs right now, and they basically overproduce due to the cryptocurrency mining, heyday that was last year. And what's happened is that they produce too much. They have an inventory problem. They have too much of it. They even took back a ton of GPUs from an OEM partner, and that's not something GPU manufacturers usually have had to do. So what they have now is just a lot of the GPUs sort of sitting in a warehouse somewhere, or maybe on a ship, or a shipyard or something like that. It's not great. It's not great. I think that speaks to how unprofitable altcoin mining has become, because GPUs obviously are used mostly for altcoin mining. And if I don't know what they're gonna do with this inventory, and who knows where that's going. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good indicator that at least the altcoin bubble is definitely starting to pop. See other stuff. Let's see. Oh yeah, I should show you guys programming blockchain. So I haven't updated this yet, but I will be talking about this in the coming days. Denver is July 9th and 10th. San Francisco is July 26th, 27th. There's still spots, still scholarships. Please apply for the scholarship. We'd love to fund more people. There's a lot of companies that are stepping up and wanting to sponsor developers. So if you are a developer, please go and apply. You can get a course for free. Second thing is I am going to do something in Chicago, August 21st and 22nd. And the other one that I'm going to do is in Prague, October 8th and 9th. I'm finalizing the venues, but they will be up on this site shortly. Yeah, you can always apply. You can sign up for my newsletter. That always keeps it up to date. And you can apply for the seminar there. You can also apply for the scholarship. Where's the scholarship? Yeah, there it is. Right here, by clicking this link, and that takes you to a scholarship application. I'll tell you right now, since you guys are watching this video, that solving this problem, if you get it, if you do a really good job, you will most likely get a scholarship. So that's something to keep in mind. I would love to teach you. I would love to teach lots of people. And please do that, as a way. Yeah, just a little bit of, I wanted to show you guys that the good folks at Mercado Bitcoin gave me this jersey, and Brazil did win today, although it took them until extra time to actually get the goals. Amazingly, they put my name on the back, which and I'm like a number 9. So kind of crazy that they sprung for this. Very fun doing that stuff. All right, let's look at some questions here. Let's see. C++ looks great. Do you have an approximate page length? I guess that's referring to my book. It's already 100 and something pages. I imagine by the time I'm done with it, it'll be in the 200 page range. But yeah, I'm not sure. If for someone that knows basic stuff, would it be good to dive deep into Python and then read this? Yes, absolutely. That's exactly my audience. Somebody that knows Python, wants to learn Bitcoin, this would more or less do it. Let's see, another question. Can you tell me non-technical roles in blockchain tech? Yeah, there's tons. And I think Barry Silbert had a tweet not too long ago, like, here's like 200 roles or something in our portfolio companies or something like that. Every company needs lots and lots of stuff, salespeople, marketing people, developers, QA people, HR people and whatnot. There's always ways to find an intersection between what you're good at and what you're passionate about. And that's a really good thing. I think I heard a while ago, if you want to find like like a very good role for you, find like the Venn diagram intersection between what you're good at, what pays well, and what you're passionate about. If you can find that intersection, something that you can do all of those things, then you'll be good. And to find something that pays well, and this tends to be a problem for a lot of people, you need to look at your skill set, right? Like, what are you good at? What skills do you currently have? And this is something from a lot of different books that I've read. But basically, look at something where you're in the top 20% of the population. It doesn't even have to be like top 1% or anything, just top 20% on something. So for me, that would be, I know how to code, and I can explain things. And, I know about Bitcoin. So if you combine those things, and you can find some career where that's something, where that's an intersection, then you're going to have a pretty good career. And because, if I'm in the top 20% of all of those, 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2, that ends up being, in the top 1% of something. And that makes you very, very valuable, especially if you can find somebody that needs that exact skill set. And this is honestly how I got into teaching. I'm somebody that knows how to code, that can, explain things, and, I'm into Bitcoin. So all three of those things sort of combine, so that I can do something that not a lot of people can do, because I have that combination of skills. Now, you might have a different, stack of skills, and combining them in the right way is, and finding a career that makes sense in that regard is something that you're going to have to work at and find. But yeah, there's plenty of stuff in blockchain tech and Bitcoin or whatever. You just have to be, you just have to sit down, have an honest assessment of yourself. And if you have trouble doing that, go ask like your 3 closest friends, hey, what do you think I'm good at? What are some things that I can sort of uniquely bring? What am I in the top 20% for? And pretty much everyone has something that they're in the top 20% for. And if you combine those and find a career, that's great. Anyway, I went on a little bit of a rant there. What about 21E8? That's what it was, not 2E08. Somebody found that there were something like 6 other blocks already before this current one that started with 21E8. So tells you how frequently that occurs. So it doesn't mean anything. It's yeah, I don't know what people are talking about. It's Bitcoin numerology at this point. Any plans to teach in the UK? I've already taught there, back in January. No real plans to go back at this point. Prague is going to be my one European one before the end of the year. But eventually maybe. Do you still work with the Decrypt projects? Yeah, yes, I'm still an advisor, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for those guys, and I think what they're doing is very important, and I'm really curious to see how the market reacts to their project, and obviously I wouldn't be an advisor if that weren't the case. Will the EU's attempt at controlling the air internet affect the crypto market? No idea. I mean, regulations are regulations, but you can always have VPN and things like that. Can you suggest any good books to read? Yeah, I've been reading a lot lately. I'm starting to like the old stuff. I've been reading some Seneca. He's a Stoic philosopher. Talks a lot about controlling what you can control and not worrying about the stuff that you can't. This is very much in line with like the serenity prayer, right? God, help me to accept the things I can't control. Let's see, the strength to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, something like that. That whole philosophy is very much in the spirit of Stoicism. Just sort of control what you can control, and don't worry about the other stuff. The more I've been reading about it, the more it's about controlling your desires and not sort of giving into your desires. There's a lot of sort of desires inside of you that are always sort of competing for your attention, and sort of getting away from that and maybe not playing that video game, maybe not, checking World Cup scores like I am, or just doing things impulsively, and looking at your life from a long-term perspective. I think that very much jives with the Bitcoin ethic. So if you are watching this, you're probably into Bitcoin. I would strongly recommend something by Seneca. There's a lot of stuff out there. Most of it's free, or you can buy a collected writings from Amazon for like $3 on Kindle, and it's great. It's gives you a very good sense of how the ancients thought. I was telling my wife today, we're constantly distracted these days, right? We're always thinking about the latest distraction. We're looking at Twitter or in the news or TV or sports or whatever it is that you're into. You're probably constantly checking the web. I think the ancients had it better in a way, because they had a lot of time to think. And one of the things that I'm appreciating, despite being or maybe because I am so busy these days, I'm starting to appreciate the times when I have time to actually just sit and think. And this is something that Nasib Taleb gets into in his books, about how you should just take long walks and think about stuff. And I'm starting to appreciate that a lot more. I think when I was younger, I would take a lot of time to not really really think through things. And instead, I would get into the latest video game or watch some sports game or something like that, as a way to kind of distract myself, to kill time. And I think that's kind of an offense, right? You don't want to kill time. You want to utilize your time really, really well, because time is what life is made out of. The more of it that you waste, the less of it that you're actually, utilizing for good. And jiving with the whole long time preference stuff, thinking pays off, has a very long-term ROI that's really good, because it sets your mind straight. It helps you to get resolve, courage, prudence, temperance, fortitude, courage and virtue. That I think is is more valuable long term than, you know, being entertained for 5 minutes. And don't get me wrong, I still like I was watching videos of how to like different ways to cook steak yesterday, right? Like and it's kind of a waste of time. Yeah, I do want to know how to cook steak really, really well, and you know, I was just drooling at the different ways that they could do it. But you know, is that really a long time preference activity? Not, I don't think so. I think sitting down, thinking, and going through your life philosophy and figuring out what's actually important to you, those things have a tremendous ROI. And I don't know. I'm trying to live life that way. Oh, sorry about that. That was kind of a long-winded answer to. Can you suggest any good books? Where's the best place to learn Python for someone who knows very little about code? So I have this on my programming blockchain website, but there's Python for everyone. Here, let me share and show you, because I think it is awesome, and I've been actually like going through this with my son, and I know he enjoys it, but it's pi4e.com, and this is the website, and it's really aimed at beginners. And it starts with, let's set up your environment. If you're on Windows or Mac, it goes through exactly what you need to do, what you need to download, what you need to install. There's a step-by-step video on how to install, like he goes through everything step by step. It's extreme. It's it assumes that you know absolutely nothing, just how to do everything. Then you get into the lessons, and lesson 1 is installing, and then lesson 2 is why program, right? Like it has the slides and everything. You can yeah, that's what I just did. Variables, expressions, and statements. And I've been kind of inspired by this guy, because this is how I teach too. Is let's go through the very basics and make sure that you understand everything in order to move on. And this is how I've been approaching it. Anyway, this is a very good website. If you can get through all of these lessons, and then afterwards, go to like Project Euler and go to the archives there, and solve like 10 or 20 of these problems. A lot of these are very quick, like multiples of 3 and 5. This is very simple programming puzzle. If we list all natural numbers below 10 that are multiples of 3 and 5, we get 3, 5, 6, and 9. The sum of these multiples is 23. Find the sum of all the multiples of 3 or 5 below 1,000. So stuff like that. And you can actually sign in, and then and then enter the answers for these, and do a lot of these. You can do even Fibonacci numbers and stuff like that. A lot of these are mathy, and on purpose, so that you can use pretty much any programming language. You don't have to know about the request library, so you can go scrape a website or use a REST API or anything like that. This is very much about the art of programming and algorithms and things like that, and not necessarily computer engineering, which is plugging into APIs and stuff like that. So between those two things, I think you can certainly, if you are motivated enough, go and learn all this stuff. And this is something that Naval Ravikant has said over and over. It used to be that information was the gatekeeper to professional development. Nowadays, it's just curiosity, because all the information is already out there. All right. Let's see. I just said the Serenity prayer the other day. Yeah, I love the Serenity prayer. It's one of my favorites. Can you make money by coding Bitcoin? Yeah, of course. There's a lot of companies that'll hire you. Hi, Jimmy. I'd like to know your thoughts on Ethereum and dApps. Could you tell us your perspective on the way you think it's heading? Well, I mean, I think there was a, let me see if I can find it, but there, daily active users, dApps, Ethereum. There was a tweet the other day. And actually, it looks like CoinDesk has an article on this. and basically it tells you the top five D apps basically. Oh gosh, daily active users. Yeah. All right. So top five. Why isn't this showing up? I mean, basically, a lot of D apps just aren't getting any usage, and for good reason. It's very expensive. I mean, to create a crypto kitty is like, I don't know, 20, 30 bucks or something like that. And it's not that fun, right? Like you just get to breed new crypto kitties. Hopefully you get something better. It's it's not that fun compared to some quality games on Android or iOS or desktop or console or something like that. As a game, it kind of fails. As a collectible, maybe it's got something, but it's not a very exciting D app. I don't see too many things that are exciting either. Most D apps are centralized because there's a party issuing it. So I don't see them as anything innovative. It's just done on a really expensive platform, which I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a market for it since people are buying it, but not that many people. I think it's like 300 daily active users. To give you an idea, a mid-tier mobile app or any app on your phone that's even like mid-tier gets about 10,000 daily users, 100,000 monthly users. We're nowhere near that with the app. So I don't think it's heading anywhere. I just don't. I think you can almost always disrupt a successful D app with a centralized version. Yeah, I mean, Ethereum is built on that. There was a really good tweet by Tour de Meester about how Yahoo, during its heyday, made most of its money from startups that were advertising on its platform, and they were willing to pay a lot, largely because they had a lot of VC money. And I see Ethereum in a very similar light. There's a lot of people willing to, develop these D apps and utilize Ethereum in order to do that. But as these things run out of money or they crash or something like that, I can't see it sort of holding up its valuation, because it's just not that useful. I don't know. All right, let's see. Jimmy, can you tell us which tones ideas you value? I guess you don't care about trading or crypto dramas. So why morning brief with Tone? I mean, I love Tone. I think for whatever reason, we have a very good chemistry, and I like to talk a lot, and we'll disagree on some things, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for the art of trading, which I know just a tiny bit about, but not very much. And he obviously has respect for what I do technically, and it's a mutual respect that we have. And I'm very realistic about myself. I think I know what I don't know. And I don't know trading, and that's not something I mess with. Somebody was asking me if I wanted to buy a particular domain, and I was like, well, here's how much I would pay. And they're like, they just basically laughed at me and said, yeah, I don't think you understand what domains actually cost and stuff. And I'm like, you're right. I have no expertise in that area. I have no skills in monetizing a domain or figuring out what it's worth or valuing them properly. So it makes total sense that there are other people that are much better experts at certain other things than I am, and I am totally willing to concede that, and I like that, actually, because then I have something to listen to. I have I have no delusions about myself in that regard. I have no idea what I'm doing when I'm trading, so I don't really. All right, let's see. I was reading about Gresham's law, bad money will push out sound money, and that maybe I shouldn't see Bitcoins as an everyday currency. Any thoughts? Yeah, I talk about Gresham's law all the time. When you have bad money and good money, the bad money will be spent first, and people will hoard the good money. And this is very clear when you look at a country like Venezuela. Venezuela, you have a lot of bolivars and a lot of dollars. And if you hold both, and you need to go buy something, what are you going to use? You're going to use your precious US dollars? or your bolivars that are depreciating almost on a daily basis. You would use your bolivars, right? Like that's very obvious. That's a natural human instinct. It's to hold on to something that is scarce. And bolivars are not scarce. They're getting printed all the time. So you want to get rid of it as soon as possible. So that's basically what it is. And that's why for a large number of use cases, I don't actually see Bitcoin being utilized for payment. And this was proved out in 2014, 15, and 16. A lot of companies started taking Bitcoin, like Dell, Expedia, and many others. And in general, they actually didn't, gain that much sales because people didn't want to spend their Bitcoin. I mean, maybe initially just to reward them and say, oh, whatever. And this is one of my annoyances with our Bitcoin. They tout like every new store that's taking up Bitcoin and it gets voted up to like the top position or whatever. I don't think that's that important. Give me a story about like how many more people are buying Bitcoin to use it as a store of value. That is a lot more interesting to me because that means that the network effect of scarcity is actually spreading. But, like a company taking Bitcoin, I mean, they're just going to convert it to dollars later anyway. You're actually, like putting sell pressure on Bitcoin by doing that. I don't, I like all the Bitcoin Cash people that are like, oh, you have to use it, as a medium of exchange. And, they co-opt the word use to say, oh, you know what, like, you're not really using it if you're not spending it. And that's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. Like, using it as a store of value is definitely a use case. And that's what most people use it for. If you were only using it for a medium of exchange, then what you would do is you wouldn't care about the price at all. You would just buy it, spend it, and then that's it. But the fact that people talk about price so much, that's evidence right there that most people use it as a store of value. All right, let's see. What's the next one? Appreciate everyday currency. Can you discuss Bulletproof protocol for Bitcoin? Heard about it a couple of months ago. Yeah, Bulletproofs are basically, you can prove anything with Bulletproofs as long as it's true. It just takes a lot of CPU power. It's a lot like ZK snarks in that way. You can have proofs that as long as certain assumptions hold, you can have proofs certain things are true. And ZK snarks, for example, uses it to prove that you're not creating any new money, for example. And Bulletproofs have that same ideal property. From what I'm understanding, like ring signatures in Monero, for example, are like many kilobytes for a single proof, and that's very, very inefficient. With Bulletproofs, you can do it in like 64 bytes instead of kilobytes. That's way better. And that's the direction that's going. Except that it's always a trade-off. You have to use more CPU cycles to do the proving. That's about the extent that I know about it. I'd have to study the protocol and try to implement it, I think, to really understand it. And that's generally my philosophy. I take time to really understand something by actually implementing it. All right, let's see. Why VC funds are putting so much money in scammy tokens? How could they be so stupid? You got to remember that a lot of them get some significant discounts. This is like the pre-sale of something, and they get to put their money to work and get a return very quickly, which is like music to a VC's ears. And let's face it, they're kind of greedy, right? Like they want to make money. A lot of them, I'm realizing, will do almost anything for money, and that's kind of a sad state of things. So yeah, sorry. I mean, that's just reality. They're making money off of the later back holders. At some point, the music will stop, but that's how it is. Do you like BTC bull or bear period, and why? Well, I like both. I mean, I have a very rational outlook, I think. During the bull times, obviously, it's great because my wealth is increasing. During the bear periods, it's great because people can actually get to work. Matt Corallo was talking about this when I had him on my pack on the show, and it's true. Like during a bear period, you're not constantly distracted. It's very hard to work when you've got like like all-time highs every 20 minutes. All right, let's see. What do you think about color coins, and will it be interesting now that we have a Lightning Network? Well, so I used to work on color coins, and it took a lot of self-reflection after it more or less failed, right? Like there weren't that many people that were interested, and you don't know what it is. It was kind of like a proto ICO, but built on Bitcoin, and you can like sell stocks or bonds and settle them on chain there. And I thought it was a really cool use case. It was kind of like an intrinsic value for Bitcoin because each token can actually be utilized for something other than its store of value. And that was my view back then. But then like nobody really wanted to use it, and I had to really think about why it failed. And the reason I think that it failed is that, well, you can't just build something and expect people to use it. That's just not how things work. You have to build it and market it. And to Ethereum's credit, they definitely did that. They just did it in a way that was very, very different. And if you don't know, Vitalik was actually part of the Color Coins team back in 2013, and he left in part because he wanted to do things his way, and that ended up becoming Ethereum. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's that useful. A lot of it is very centralized. Maybe you gain a little bit of efficiency with transfers, and you can have anonymous ownership and things like that. But I don't know if that's that useful, to be honest. All right, what's your handle on Steemit? I do have a Steemit account. I feel bad, but I'm kind of ashamed of what I've written on there. So. A lot of it was, I want some Bitcoins from the free Steemit that I was getting. So that's what ended up happening. Sorry, but that's past that I'd like to bury. Any plan of holding a seminar in Nashville? No. How many students do you expect to have in order to host a seminar Bitcoin developer course? At least 10, preferably in the 20 plus range. But yeah, if there are enough people that'll commit to it, then I usually will commit to going. Can we pay less than 1 Satoshi per byte for fee? Yes, you can. You can specify 1 Satoshi for the entire transaction if you wanted to, and sometimes those clear. Need to base layer. I paid you $10 so you can answer my question. Well, to be honest, I don't actually get anything out of a lot of this stuff. I'll tell you what, full-time geek, if you comment on my YouTube video, I will personally message you my Steemit account, and you can go take a look at it then. But I don't want to say it to the general audience. Hey, when will you be in Europe or Switzerland? Medtone, and would love to meet you. So Prague in October is the next time. Let's see. All right. Yeah. Well, I don't publish on Steemit anymore. I think I've had a lot more success on Medium in any case. Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. I do enjoy these things, and I really should do them at least once a week just to, keep connecting with you guys. I do enjoy, answering questions and talking about this stuff, and it gives me a good break. And I think for me, especially, I'm kind of an external thinker. I like to talk through things a lot of times to get new ideas, and shows like this help me to solidify a lot of my thoughts, and that's always a good thing. Hardening and solidifying and tightening up arguments and things like that help tremendously for the clarity of my thinking, and I think that's a very good use of my time. Hopefully it's a good use of yours. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much for listening. And this song is done.